The gap. What's the gap? It's called the annulus, okay? But I don't like saying annulus more than twice in any given conversation, so we're going to call it the gap. The gap on the inside, as you see it, is the space between the end of the mouthpiece and the start of the lead pipe. It's very important. Don't confuse it with how far the mouthpiece is sticking out. People call me all the time, my mouthpiece is sticking out too far, I know my gap's too big. You can see here, the trumpet on the bottom, the mouthpiece is sticking out a lot more than the top one, but the gap is the same. What the gap is important, but don't confuse it for that, okay? So what does a gap do intonation-wise? Well, here we are back to our staff. You guys all remember this from before. Everything's nicely in tune. We're getting good harmonic engagements. We're happy. The world is wonderful. The next thing, the next slide, all we did was increase the gap. Look what happened to the pitches. Most of them got flat. The E got sharp, but they got flat and sharp by different amounts. It's non-linear. It's not like the tuning slide. Tuning slide, when you pull it out, all the notes get flat by about the same amount. You pull it in, they all get sharp by about the same amount. The gap doesn't do that. Mother Nature said, oh, let's mess with the trumpet players. So these pitches shift around, okay? So here you go. The 5 in the middle, that's the one that looks the best here. To the left is more gap. To the right is less gap. You can see the right one's interesting. The first 4, the C, G, C, and E, they pretty much stayed the same, but the others got messed up. So don't assume that the number 5 is the holy grail. In this particular situation, and this intonation was done with machine testing, the 5 worked out the best, but not necessarily the case for you. Like Bob Reeves figured out in the 70s, his sleeve system or my coupler system, which is based on his, but I made some changes. So these couplers come in different diameters. They just snap onto the mouthpiece like that. The larger diameter coupler gives you a larger gap, the smaller gives you a smaller gap. And remember, you can fix a lot of problems with the gap. However, it's like fixing things in post. If you're doing a recording, the better you start out with, the better your final result is going to be. So the gap is a big thing. And think about, so I won't make a trumpet mouthpiece that we can't adjust the gap on. Think about it. How many of you are going to go around and look for a new trumpet at this place? Come on, tell the truth. Your wives don't know. Okay. And how many of you are thinking about trying mouthpieces? Okay, cool. So here's the deal. Let's say you're going to try new trumpets, right? You take your solid shank mouthpiece, you go to all the different places. You go to Stomby first, of course. Then you go to Bach and Yamaha and all the different places, and you plug your mouthpiece into all these different trumpets, and you find the one that plays the best. But you may have passed up the best trumpet for you because you couldn't adjust the gap. Now let's say you're looking for a mouthpiece. So what do? You take your trumpet and you go try all these different mouthpieces, and you find the one that plays the best. But if you can't adjust the gap on a mouthpiece, you might have passed up the best mouthpiece for you. In my opinion, it's the most important thing you can do to try dialing your system. It's more important than the trumpet. It's more important than the mouthpiece. Did I mention it's important? It's important. So when you get all this stuff together, good intonation, appropriate damping, you get what I would call an efficient setup, and things are really good.